The international break is nearly over and the championship is back this weekend. That can only mean one thing: we are back with our weekly score predictions. 12 matches to dive into this weekend. As always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. How do you see these matches unfolding? Drop a like if you're going to enjoy, but without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out on Friday night at the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against Ipswich. Before the international break, we saw Borough losing their first game of the season away at Portsmouth, and Ipswich getting that fantastic win in the East Anglian derby. Does sort of feel like Ipswich are growing into this season now. They've won 3 of their last 4 matches. However, this won't be an easy game, going up against a Borough side who are still sat second in the championship and yet to lose at the Riverside this season. All 4 of the home matches that Borough have had so far this season have been quite close, low scoring. They've scored 4 goals in their first 4 home matches and have only conceded 1. So lack of goals and games being quite low margin tends to be how these sort of affairs go at the Riverside. And Ipswich yet to really get going on the road this season. They're yet to win an away match, and obviously maybe got a little bit fortunate that that one against Blackburn was cancelled when it was, because they were trailing 1-0 going into the 80th minute of that game. Ipswich are improving right now. Middlesbrough, though, don't tend to give away that much to the opposition. I wouldn't be surprised if we're kicking the weekend off with a draw here. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 between those two. Next then to Oxford up against Derby. A big game here at the bottom end of the championship. If Oxford win this game, they will leapfrog Derby and go out of the bottom 3 in the process. We've seen Oxford being a little bit up and down so far this season. They lost that game just before the international break away at Watford, but this is a decent opportunity up against a Derby side who definitely hasn't clicked into gear so far this season. Derby coming off the back of 3 consecutive 1-1 draws. Would not be surprised if this one ends level as well. Now, in terms of the underlying data, Oxford have looked a bit more promising than Derby. In terms of chance creation, Derby have actually been the weakest side in the league so far this season. Always seems to be their Achilles heel as well, is starting matches slowly and being the side that concedes first. They always leave themselves with a bit of a mountain to climb, but with there not being much to separate them in the league table right now, Derby have been so draw heavy. Oxford still looking for their first home win of this season. I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends level. I'm going to go for another 1-1 draw between those two. Next up, we then go to QPR up against Millwall. Now, this next batch of games will be quite a decisive point of the season for Millwall, and they really have the opportunity to make some ground on the sides above them. The next 3 are up against QPR, Stoke and Leicester, all sides who are currently sat in the top 6. So if Millwall come out of this next batch of games with a healthy points return, yeah, there's a very good chance that they will be sat in the top 6. This is a difficult game to predict, in my opinion. You've got QPR as the home side, who are on a really good unbeaten run at the moment, the 3rd longest in the championship. They've not lost any of their last 6 matches. They got a really good win just before the international break away at Bristol City. And throughout this unbeaten run, QPR have come up against different sorts of sides, and they've proven that they can play in different ways to win matches, which I think is a really good thing. But they're going up against a Millwall side who, on their day, can be really good, but when they're off it, can be really bad. And predicting Millwall so far this season has been a bit of a minefield. Their results in their opening 9 matches for Millwall have gone win, loss, draw, loss, win. They've never had 2 consecutive results as the same Millwall. They're obviously coming off the back of a really good win before the international break, beating West Brom 3-0, but as has been the trend with Millwall so far this season, wouldn't be surprised if they lose this one and then end up beating Stoke in midweek. Score prediction, I'll go 2-1 QPR. I'll back the unbeaten run to continue in that game. Next up, we go to St Mary's for Southampton up against Swansea. The Russell Martin derby between these two, isn't it? Now, it has to be said that in recent history between these two sides, it's definitely Southampton who have had the edge over Swansea. Swansea have only won 1 of their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Southampton. Form-wise has been a bit spotty between both sides so far this season, with neither of them having put together back-to-back wins so far this season. So coming out of this international break, I think both sides will be looking for that bit more consistency, especially in the case of Southampton, who I do think they've got quite a few winnable matches between now and the next international break coming up in November, and this is going to be a crucial point of the season for Will Still to prove that he is the right man for Southampton and get them into top 6 territory. Just with Southampton having the home advantage in this one, I think they could sway it. We saw Swansea getting undone by a bit of quality against Leicester just before the international break, and though we've not always seen that from Southampton so far this season, but I'm going to say that will make the difference in this game. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Southampton in that game. Next up to St Andrews for Birmingham up against Hull. We saw Birmingham playing at a 1-1 draw with Wrexham just before the international break, going up against a Hull side who, all things considered, haven't looked too bad recently. I'd certainly say that Hull have brought a greater goal threat into a lot of their games recently. Birmingham have only scored 5 goals in their last 7 league matches. In comparison, Hull have scored 11 in their last 7. It's been in these sorts of matches at St Andrews so far this season as well that Birmingham have become a little bit unstuck. Obviously against Oxford and Swansea, they were both quite low margin games that Blues just managed to win by a goal, and they were held to a point against Sheffield Wednesday thanks to a last minute equaliser in that game. You always back Hull to be at least good for 1 goal in every game they go into at the moment, and I'm just not sure if I'm confident enough in backing Birmingham to get 2 or 3 that it might take to win this game. And for that reason, I think this one could end level. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 between those two. Next up to the Valley for Charlton up against Sheffield Wednesday. Charlton, I think 3 of their last 4 games in the Championship have been away from home, so they'll be thankful to be back at the Valley for this one. And last time out at home was a really good performance as they put Blackburn to the sword and beat them 3-0. Now, Sheffield Wednesday aren't a pushover, especially in away games like this. We saw them get a good point away at Birmingham, which very easily could have been all 3. And prior to that, they went away to Portsmouth and won that game 2-0. I know they lost 5-0 against Cov just before the international break, but it's no disgrace to be losing to that Coventry side right now. But obviously Sheffield Wednesday have bigger problems going on off the pitch. We still don't have any crystal clear clarity in terms of a potential point deduction that could be coming their way. If that does hit in the next few weeks, it could be a bit of a mood killer there. Charlton looking to react to that defeat away at Preston just before the international break. I reckon they'll just about get the job done here, but I do think Wednesday will be good for at least a goal in this one. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-1 Charlton in that game. Back them to just about get the job done there. Next up we go to Coventry up against Blackburn. Coventry looking to maintain their status as the top Championship club right now. It's been well documented that all of their underlying numbers, especially attacking metrics, have been off the charts so far this season. And I think deservedly so. They are sat top of the league right now. Their goal difference is way ahead of anyone else. Plus 20 after 9 matches is absolutely ridiculous. I do think most people will make Coventry the obvious favourites for this game as well. They're at home, they're playing with a real confidence in the final third against a Blackburn side who, for most of the season, I don't think have looked terrible defensively, but they can be opened up, as we saw when they went away to Charlton and lost that game 3-0 against the best attacking side in the league right now. I think Blackburn, would take a point right now and run with it. Blackburn, in terms of their head-to-head fixtures against Coventry in recent years, they failed to beat Cov in their last 9 attempts. Listen, the Championship always throws up curveballs, but I think I'm with most people here in backing a pretty comfortable Coventry win. Score prediction, I'm going to go 3-0 Cov in that game and back the goal-scoring trend to continue after the international break. Next then to a big game at Carrow Road. It's Norwich up against Bristol City. It's Liam Manning against his former employers, and boy does he need a result in this game. Norwich coming off the back of that loss in the East Anglian derby last time out. It feels like the Norwich fans' patience is running quite thin at the moment, and having lost all 4 of their first home matches of the season, you could understand why. Carrow Road, it's not been a happy hunting ground for Norwich so far this season. But with all that being said, might not be the worst time in the world to be playing this Bristol City side, just because of the injuries that have accumulated within that team recently. They're not at 100% strength right now. Had this game taken place, a month or so ago, I think Bristol City, would have been the bang-on favourites for this one, and I would have no sort of objections with backing them for a result in this game, especially with how good they've looked on the road at times this season. But the Championship can work in weird and mysterious ways. I just think there's so much pressure under and on Liam Manning right now that surely he has to deliver something sooner rather than later, and Norwich have to pick up at home. I do think looking at Norwich's fixture run in between now and the November international break, it is a relatively kind run of fixtures, so it's now or never for Manning, in my opinion. This is the block of games that he has to turn things around and show that he can get Norwich moving back in the right direction, because so far this season, they have looked a bit hopeless, haven't they? Bristol City, on their day under Struber, capable of going toe-to-toe with anyone in the Championship, but their form has taken a little bit of a slide recently with some of the injuries that have built up. Score prediction, I'm going to put my neck on the line and say that Norwich will turn things around in this game. I'll go 2-1 Norwich in that game. There has to be a reaction there, surely. After that, to Brom Lane for Sheffield United up against Watford. A tough game to call, this one. Sheffield United coming off the back of back-to-back losses before the international break. But in terms of performances, I didn't think they were necessarily that bad against either Southampton or Hull, but obviously just on the wrong end of both of those scorelines. It feels like they're not getting the rub of the green right now. And listen, that happens when you decide at the foot of the Championship, even when you're putting in performances that aren't necessarily that bad, you just get key things going against you, whether it's a bit of a dodgy decision like the Southampton game or, you know, missing the penalty like they did against Hull. I do think the tide will eventually turn for them there. I think that Wilder will eventually get things right. But this is a really tough one to call against a Watford side who changed managers over the international break. Paolo Pezzolano was sent packing and Javi Gracia coming back to the club. I do think CV-wise, in terms of the sort of manager he is coming in, he probably is a bit of a better fit to this current Watford squad than Pezzolano was, and Watford's form throughout the short Pezzolano era was pretty tough to put your finger on. They did get a decent win just before the international break against Oxford, but we've not really seen them play that well over a full cohesive 90 minutes yet. Score prediction in this game, I've just got a sneaky feeling that maybe the disruption of Watford of changing their manager could suit Sheff United in this game. Score prediction, I'll go 1-0 Sheff United in that game. Why not? Next up to the Bet365 for Stoke up against Wrexham. An interesting game, this one. Stoke still holding on to a place in the top six, but their form did take a little bit of a slide towards the back end just before this international break. They've only won one of their last 6 matches, so a win in this game against Wrexham would be just what they're in need of, really, to properly solidify that place in the top 6. Wrexham, do you know what? They've not been a bad side away from home, have they? They've been a bit frustrating at the racecourse at times, still looking for their first home win of the season. But away from home, Wrexham have won 2, drawn 1, lost 1. They've not lost away from home since the first day of the season when they were away at Southampton. And even in that game, they only lost in the last minute. They do bring a real goal threat into any game they go into, and playing a game like this, which you'd expect them to, you know, be playing on the counter, looking for those breaks going forward, they do have those players who can hurt Stoke. It's just a question of whether or not they can get past Victor Johansson, who's obviously made a tremendous start to this season. Most of Wrexham's games tend to be fairly high scoring. You get both teams to scoring quite a lot of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we get a high scoring draw in this one. Score prediction here, I'm going to go for a 2-2 between Stoke and Wrexham. Next up to the Hawthorns for West Brom up against Preston. This does feel like quite a tight, low scoring game, doesn't it? First goal in this one you fancy to be quite important. Now, in years gone by, North End have always tended to really struggle going away to West Brom. I think in the 21st century, we might have won there once, something like that. So generally speaking, this isn't a happy hunting ground for Preston, but so far this season, the Hawthorns hasn't quite had that same maybe fear factor that it has had in previous years. Like in home matches so far this season, West Brom have only won 1 out of 4, and they've only scored 3 goals at home so far this season as well, so haven't been scoring on the regular. Preston on the road, we will look to keep this game as tight as possible, not give that much away to the opposition. Like if this game is won either way, you could definitely see it being won by a 1-goal margin, couldn't you? I do think we've seen real improvements from North End in away matches this season compared to last season. Do I think we'll go here and win though? I'm not so sure. I would take a point and I wouldn't be surprised if this one does end level. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 between West Brom and Preston. And then to round off this batch of games, we've got Leicester against Portsmouth coming up at the quite unusual kickoff time of 8:45 on Saturday. Leicester coming into this one unbeaten in their last 7 matches. That's the second longest unbeaten streak currently in the Championship, only behind Coventry, who are yet to lose this season. Pompey got a great win just before the international break, beating Middlesbrough 1-0. I still think that this could be a decent time to be playing Portsmouth though, given a lot of the injuries they still have. It looks like Josh Murphy might be touch and go, might have recovered in time for this game on Saturday, but we'll have to wait and see what Mousinho says in his presser. Whether or not he is back for this game, Pompey still have quite a lot of people who have definitely been ruled out. With that being said, I do think you can get at this Leicester side and can get a bit of joy from putting a bit of pressure on their back line, but on the opposite end of the pitch, Leicester just do have those match-winning players. players. It was the case against Swansea just before the international break. Fatu's been in absolutely exceptional form recently. I think they just about have enough to get the job done in this one. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-1 Leicester in that game. But there you guys have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like, and anything that you got to say about these upcoming games over the weekend, make sure to get it in the comments down below. Apart from that, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.